Today, we're jumping into the absolutely wild origin story of a true gaming giant, Counter-Strike. It's a game that didn't just define a genre, it launched a global movement. But you might be surprised at just how humble its beginnings really were. So, that brings us to the big question, right? How on earth did a free project, cooked up by a couple of students, explode into one of the biggest, most influential games in history? That's what we're going to unpack. It's an incredible story about community, innovation, and, well, perfect timing. So here's our game plan. We'll start at the very beginning, with its creation as a mod. Then we'll get into what made the gameplay a total game changer. After that, we'll track its jump to the big leagues, see how it's evolved over 2 decades, and finally, look at its massive legacy as an esports pioneer. Okay, first up, a modder's humble start. Before Counter-Strike was this global phenomenon, it was just an idea, a side project, something much, much smaller. So, let's paint the picture. The year is 1999. 2 guys, Minh and Jess Cliffe, have a brilliant idea. But they don't build a new game from the ground up. Nope. They create a mod, basically a modification, using the engine of a super popular game called Half-Life. And here's the kicker. They released it for free. This wasn't some corporate-backed project. It was pure passion. So, what was the secret sauce? Why did this free mod just completely take over? Well, it was a totally new breed of shooter, and that's exactly what we're digging into next. See, at the time, shooters were all about fast-paced, run-and-gun chaos. It was pure mayhem where you just ran around as a lone wolf. Counter-Strike came along and just slammed on the brakes. It was slow, it was methodical, it was tactical. Suddenly, it wasn't about who had the fastest reflexes, but which team had the better plan. This was a massive, massive shift. And at its core was this simple, brilliant conflict. You had 2 teams with incredibly high-stakes objectives, not just running around shooting. You were either trying to plant a bomb or desperately trying to defuse it, or maybe you were rescuing hostages. Every single life mattered, and you absolutely had to work together to win. The tension was just off the charts. This brings us to a huge turning point. The game was a grassroots sensation, but how did it make that leap from a free passion project to a product on store shelves? Well, this is where the story gets really interesting. And its popularity was just organic. There was no marketing team, no ad budget. People just loved it and told their friends. It spread like wildfire through PC gaming forums and LAN cafes, those places where everyone would haul their computers to play together. The success was undeniable, and it was 100% driven by the community. Naturally, Valve, the company that made Half-Life in the first place, started paying attention. They saw this enormous community bubbling up around their game, and they did something that was, frankly, genius. Instead of shutting it down, they embraced it. They brought the original creators on board, and in 2000, they officially released Counter-Strike 1.0 as a standalone game. The mod had just gone pro. But that was just the beginning, really. The story of Counter-Strike is also a story of insane longevity. How does any game stay on top of the charts for over 20 years? Simple, it has to evolve. You can really see it in the timeline. You have 1.6, the absolute icon that defined an entire era. Then in 2004, you get Counter-Strike Source, which was a huge graphical upgrade. Then comes 2012's Global Offensive, the version that supercharged the esports scene into the powerhouse we see today. And now Counter-Strike 2, pushing the legacy into the future. Each step was crucial. But we have to give a special shout out to 1.6. Seriously, for an entire generation of gamers, this was competitive gaming. This was the version that dominated internet cafes and basement LAN parties across the globe. It built a legacy that players still talk about today. And a huge reason for its survival was this constant push forward in technology. By upgrading its game engine over the years, the franchise kept itself looking and feeling modern, able to compete with brand new games while never losing that core feeling that made it special. So finally, let's talk legacy. Because Counter-Strike wasn't just another successful video game. Oh no, it was one of the key architects of the entire esports world as we know it. I mean, the impact is just staggering. It's easily one of the most influential shooters ever made. That whole idea of team-based, objective-focused gameplay, that became the blueprint for countless games that followed. It helped drag professional gaming out of the basement and onto the world stage. And even now, it's still one of the most played competitive games on the planet. So when you really step back and look at the whole picture, Counter-Strike is so much more than just a game. It's a cultural phenomenon. It laid the foundation, the rules, the drama, the community for the entire multi-billion-dollar esports industry that's thriving today. Which brings us to one last thought to leave you with. This whole journey, from a free mod to a global titan, wasn't masterminded in some corporate boardroom. It was driven by the players. It really makes you think, what does this story teach us about the incredible power that a passionate community has to literally shape the future of gaming?